Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something, well, really basic, but also tricky, how we even try to measure those uh, fuzzy things like our feelings, our opinions.
Right, the subjective states. We've got some interesting source material on this, looking at the challenges and the smart ways people trying to craft questions to capture these accurately.
Yeah, and this stuff matters. If you're looking at survey results or maybe interpreting feedback, even just thinking about your own feelings, knowing how these questions get made.
And where they can go wrong.
Exactly. It gives you a much better lens. So our mission today is kind of equipping you with that lens. We'll look at why asking about feelings is harder than asking, say, your age.
We'll touch on context, neutral language, which is huge common traps like, ambiguity bias, and the different ways we actually try to measure these things.
Okay, so let's dig in. The big challenge first.
Yeah.
Subjectivity. Why is asking about how someone feels so different?
Well, personal experience, even just your mood right now, can totally change how you hear and answer the exact same question. The sources use a classic example. How satisfied are you with your job?
Seems simple enough.
But what does satisfied mean? For one person, it's all about the salary. For another, it might be the work environment or their colleagues or job security.
Oh, I see. So you ask 10 people, you might get 10 answers thinking about totally different things.
Yep.
Not very comparable.
Exactly. The meaning isn't fixed. It's subjective.
So how do you get around that? Make it more useful?
Context. That's what the sources really stress. You need to give people a clear frame of reference, maybe a time frame.
Okay, so instead of just, how satisfied are you?
You'd ask something more like, thinking about your job over the past month. How satisfied have you been with your workload? See? It anchors the response, narrows it down.
Right. Much more specific. And the wording itself, that can push people too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Biased or leading questions are a major pitfall. They can completely skew the results you get. Think about a question like, don't you agree that the public transport system is unreliable?
Yeah, that's definitely pushing for a yes. It sets up agreement as the default.
Precisely. It's not neutral. The
Yeah.
sources contrast this with a much better alternative.
Which would be?
Something like, how would you rate the reliability of public transportation in your area? Just asks for a rating. No nudge either way.
Allows for the person's actual opinion. Okay.
Then there's the issue of words that seem clear, but aren't.
The ambiguity trap. Yes. Words like happy or safe or successful, they feel straightforward, but honestly, they can mean vastly different things to different individuals.
So if you just ask, do you feel successful?
Successful at what? Your career, family life, personal goals. It's too broad. Without specifying the domain, the answers are, again, hard to interpret meaningfully.
And then there's the moment, how you feel right now. Yeah, this one's fascinating. Your temporary mood, like just having a bad day, can actually color your answers to really general questions, like overall life satisfaction. You might rate it lower just because you spilled coffee this morning.
Which isn't really measuring your overall satisfaction then.
Not accurately, no. It's influenced by a fleeting state.
And sometimes we don't even answer honestly, maybe. We answer how we think we should.
That's definitely a factor. Response bias. There are different kinds, like acquiescence bias, just tending to agree with statements regardless of content.
Okay.
And social desirability bias, wanting to look good, basically. Answering in a way you think is socially acceptable rather than what's truly accurate for you.
So how do researchers deal with that?
Well, one common technique, especially in scales, is using a mix of positively and negatively worded items. It helps catch that tendency just to agree or disagree with everything.
Got it. Okay, so we need clear questions, neutral language, specific context, be mindful of mood, watch out for bias. How do we actually, measure the response, get a number or something?
Right, the response formats, like ERT-type scales, are very common. Strongly agree, agree neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. Key there is clear labels and consistent ordering. Then you have things like visual analog scales, where you might mark a point on a line, or just simple numeric scales, often 0 to 10.
Like the health question example.
Exactly. On a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is not at all satisfied and 10 is extremely satisfied, how would you rate your overall health? Gives you a quantifiable intensity score. Consistency in how you present the scale and its anchors is vital.
Okay, so wrapping this up, asking about subjective stuff, feelings, opinions, it's powerful, but wow, it needs careful design.
It really does. You have to think hard about avoiding ambiguity, bias, those temporary influences. Context is king.
And using neutral words, clear response options, it all matters.
Yeah. When done well, though, these kinds of questions give us incredibly valuable insights into human experience that, you just can't get otherwise.
So, a final thought to leave you with. Knowing how much our own interpretation, our mood, can sway our answers. How does that make you think differently about surveys you see, or maybe even how you check in with your own feelings? What other hidden things might be shaping how we think we feel?
Hmm. Lots to think about there.
Definitely. Thanks for diving deep with us today.